just want to finish off tonight, because like I said, GameCon's willing to help whenever we can. So I'm just wanting to ask from the audience what you think some priorities are that you could suggest to us to wrap our heads around.
You've got Mike.
First up, thanks heaps, Doug, for organising this. I'd like to see this idea go forward. I mean, we did 50 people this year. I'd like to see 200 next year, or some type of growth like that. But what would be really good to get out of this is what the people that are here think that this type of a thing should be talking about. I think it's something that's achievable once a year, sort of get different groups from different areas come together and start looking at not only the obvious common problems that are happening, through each year for each various industry, but also try to get sort of more understanding of where hunters are going, where fishers are going, the commonalities.
I think Robert Brown made a really good point about work on your successes and then try and drive forward. And I think that at the end of the day, Robert and all his knowledge is certainly there to be shared. Leadership's organising your own club. It starts at the grassroots, right? And really, that's where it starts to then build to the next level of our hierarchy. Doesn't matter what organisation you talk about. Every organisation in a tiered structure needs leadership all the way through from the bottom level. So I think you need to try and start building those things, as I said. Get engaged with the people in your own clubs and foster and nurture those guys and girls to bring things forward. And hopefully they will take on your same values and the same passion that you share to represent your interests in the future. Because there's nothing like a child holding a gun, doing things properly under instruction to bring them forward in those things. And I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, kids like my kids and my grandchildren will certainly be part of that process in the future. Doesn't matter whether they're male or female, they'll certainly be striving for looking after their kids in the future.
Well, my take on it is basically we've got to start from the beginning and we need to consolidate our base. We need to find ways of doing that. So that's a big thing, I think. How do we get everyone together?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's what we need to do. We need to consolidate our base.
I just want to build on the comments that were made over here a minute ago, that good news stories are what we need here, and that's, I guess, under successes. But I spent 8 years on the Victorian Game Management Advisory Council, or whatever they were called before this iteration, and Field and Game down there did some really good work. They took ownership of particular areas of swampland. They put in nest boxes, managed the environment around those areas, and that was held up as a very good investment in the future and contribution to the community. And those are the sorts of things. Lots of those things happen in New South Wales clubs too, but we just don't talk about it, and they need to be featured.
With social media, they're much more cheaply advertised now.
I think the first speaker, Grant, set the scene for what I expected out of today, and that is building coalitions. And I look at our opposition, which is the Greens. They're the nasties. They're against us, and we can learn from what they do. They're very well organised. They happen to be well funded too, which is unfortunate because we're not. But they're very well organised within themselves, and they seem to run campaigns. They seem to talk to one another. You might have Nature New South Wales running a campaign about turtles or frogs or something this week, and then next week you'll have Greenpeace running a campaign about something, and then the following week it'll be one of the others. And I don't know whether they purposely take turns or whether that's just the way it happens in my news feed. on social media, but they're sponsored ads. They're coming to their opposition. They're coming into my news feed, unsolicited. So I wonder whether sometimes if you're running a campaign, you want to push your point of view, maybe if you do it as a sponsored thing and actually target the opposition, target the green groups with a pro-fishing angle or something along those lines. But I think we need to talk amongst one another. The different fishing groups need to talk together and get together and put their resources towards single goals. And the same goes for the hunters. If we can help each other out, if the hunters have got a campaign on and they want the fishers to help, we can use our social media to promote some hunting things and vice versa. And I think that's what building coalitions is going to be all about.
Just in saying that sheet, the sign-in sheet where you left an email and stuff, can everyone make sure you got it on that? So we can perhaps start up a bit of a networking thing where we start doing pretty much exactly that.
When we talk about building coalitions and getting people working together, I think we need to list our shared values, like our core values, because I think I saw a great clip recently on PragerU. Has anybody here look at the PragerU University clips from America? They've got a little 5-minute clips, and there Dennis Prager is the guy that's puts them together, and they're very conservative-minded. You know, they're great clips. They're usually 5 minutes long, and they hit the point. They really do. He's getting banned by Google and banned by quite a few of them because they say you know, they're losing their value. But anyway, one of the clips recently talked about you can have people. They said there's not a problem in America between Republicans and Democrats because there can be the same people in the one family, but because they've got shared values, they can have differences of opinions, but their shared values bring them together as Americans. And that's what I think we need to look at here. That leads us as well into the rhetoric we use. Now, I'm someone that just hates this dirty 4-letter word of pest. You know, I just hate it. I like problematic. I can see a lot of things have a bad impact or an impact on the environment or causing an issue or whatever. But we're being led down a track by the anti-gunners and the anti-hunters, all the rest of it, into their rhetoric, where I think we need to use our own rhetoric carefully that's shared amongst people. One example there, I'm not saying protect foxes. Right? I love shooting foxes. I don't like them in the bush, what they do. But recently they found that foxes have got an enzyme in their stomach that they've managed to use. They're finding that it actually preserves fruit and veggies when it's used, and it gives like 6 months more shelf life. This is true, you can look at it. And there's an enzyme that they've located that's in a fox that... Oh, it probably does. Probably you can't eat the fruit, that's why it lasts longer. But
please don't tell me you're going to shoot foxes and sell them to the supermarkets to give the customers.
I expected this to happen. I say to people in North Queensland, we've got serrated tussock, your giant rat's tail grass. You see the signs everywhere. If giant rat's tail grass was as good a nutrition as Rhodes grass or buffel grass, landowners would be planting it by the millions of acres. But because it's no good for cattle feed, suddenly it's a filthy feral pest weed because it's got no economic value to the landowners. There's a lot of things like that. I just think we need to get our rhetoric right.
I think I read once that he who defines the terms wins for the day.
Yeah, sort of in line with what Clark was saying. I think, you know, quite often we've tried coalitions before, particularly in the hunting fraternity and shooting fraternity, and where it's sort of fallen down is we've got in the habit of focusing on what sort of divides us rather than what unites us. And, you know, both across hunting and fishing, what unites us is that love of the outdoors and getting out and experiencing the outdoors. But I also think we need some clear sort of actionable items that we want to get out of these these forums and out of these coalitions. Otherwise, they will just lose that momentum. So I think, yeah, we need to come up with some clear non-negotiables so we don't get that division. So those lines in the sand that will, if the government comes to one group individually and tries to split us, we know that they won't divide us because we've agreed, this is the line, we're not moving from it. But yeah, have those clear actionable items that we can achieve. And one of the big things coming out of these forums is how do we get this information out to the people that weren't here tonight? How do we filter that down into those lower levels of leadership? So then, they've got the knowledge and we're building up their capacity to, take over us when we're too old.
Well, we have had it professionally videoed, by the way. David's a delegate to GameCon. He also runs a business called Black Ability Media Production. And so it's all been professionally done today. It's just a question of what we do with it and how we manage that from on out, but it is being preserved. Anybody else?
Yep. Look, one of the things that jogged my memory just now, we were mentioning about the Greens groups. When I was looking quite heavily into the Stop the Lockout, I started doing a lot of research into who our enemy was. One of the things that I uncovered when I was looking at that was a worldwide database of save groups. Okay, we've all seen all these issues with our farmers, people going on there trying to save their animals. If I told you guys how many individual little save groups there were on Facebook with 12 members here and 10 members there and 6 members there, you'd be shocked. There were like about 100 just in Victoria and New South Wales, little groups. They all have a direct connection with each other. That got me thinking just now, how many little pub fishing clubs are there? There's one in every bloody pub. Who's the president of that club? Who knows? I think what we need to start doing is getting a database together of who all these groups are. Who runs the pub down here? Who runs the pub down there, like as in the fishing groups there? Who runs that tackle shop? Who runs this? What's their name? Are they on board? Okay, and if they're not on board, let's go out there and have a chat. Let's go out there and have a chat with their members. Hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm from here. Are you guys going to get on board with us? Because if we don't do that, we're pissing in the wind. These guys literally had groups all over the world. They could send a link to each other and say, hey, sign this petition for me. We had that, Justin, as you know, in the Stop the Lockout campaign. We had people from California and San Francisco signing the petition for Sydney Harbour, and our own ministers were like, well, they could come here for a visit on holidays and they've got just as much right to vote as you do. Well, that's the same thing that the hunting groups are getting as well, because you've got all of these greenies in America influencing our policy. I think we need to start getting together and once we get our own backyard in order, start reaching out internationally as well so that we can have a pool to actually swell our numbers when petitions come up, because I'm pretty sure that 10 million hunters from America, if they turn around and went, oh yeah, whatever, let's just sign this petition for the guys in Australia, we're going to look pretty good too, instead of just the greenies doing it.
Yeah, on that point too, I don't know how many people realise it and mention it, but the Pew Group, the amount of money that Pew have overseas that has influenced our politics here, and so we all have a common enemy, whether fishing, hunting, whatever, so we need to find that commonality. But what I was going to say is, you're talking about leadership and ideas around leadership. I would start by looking for people along the lines of what Roy was talking about, interest versus influence. You need people of influence, and surely amongst all our group, and not just people of influence because they're famous or whatever, but you need an IT guru so that someone who understands social media inside and out. That's your person of influence, more so than a famous person or whatever. So rather than sort of I suppose, basic and ideas there, getting down to nitty-gritty. You need a good social media person who's switched on, who's also a person of interest, so they're driven. You need a core group of what I mentioned in my talk, people who have really good ability to articulate the message and to have core values. So a group of people who can be wheeled out to articulate that message, whether it's on social media, whether that's in interviews. Drive the media. Someone who knows how to drive the media and steer the course when it comes to the media. You're mentioning about these good initiatives that are happening. Find a way of getting that in the press. I mean, there's always going to be controversy, so someone who's good at media will always find something a little controversial, get the media's attention, and then find your core good people who can articulate that in a way that wins over that middle ground. Once again, I think everyone was talking about winning the middle ground. You need the people there, so social media is going to help. But yeah, I just think in terms of actual people, I think it would be a really good idea to start by finding your core team. Because without the core team, it's really hard because, you know, you don't want to be herding cats. You've got to get all the same cats, all the cats you want. So that's my 2 cents.
While you're moving that around, a few years ago we met with a media person, and she sort of explained the lie of the land with journalist media. And basically they're all struggling for cash. Now, she quoted a figure of $110,000 a year to get a media person on our side. And the way it works is it's like a buddy system. So if you've got a $100,000 paid job, all of a sudden you've got a bunch of friends that want to give you news, media, reports, whatever, because they want to get on your bandwagon because you're obviously getting paid. And I was just stunned. So, you know, yeah. And we met with her here, actually. I remember that. Yeah. Who's next, anybody?
Yeah, this is the first sort of forum I've been to and it's been interesting, and it's been probably supportive to see that everyone's facing the same issues through the different genres of what they enjoy recreationally. I'm just wondering whether, like, moving forward from here, because we're all preaching to the converted here, we're all on the same page. It's about whether there's a blueprint set up for an umbrella organisation for us all to come under, so we all have the same sort of support and backing from each individual group under that umbrella when we get attacked from our opposition, because the government's quite happy to sell off one portion of our recreation and appease the other. I just think it's will be beneficial if we all, I don't know what the blueprint is or how the org chart will look, that we're all under it, we're all in it together, because it minimises divide and conquer. I know a lot of us have to leave egos at the door to come back in, because there's other factions within that fraternity they don't get along with or whatever. But everybody moving forward, if we want to be doing what we're doing now and for our future generations, we need to be as one. And we need to start with a fishing and hunting, because we have a similar type of outdoor activity. You know, earlier it was mentioned about the taxi drivers were in the same boat because they were under attack with Uber coming in. But I think the first stepping stone would be all of us to become amalgamated and become a force well, not politically, because we won't be a political party, but a force as a voice to, you know, lobby, to put petitions to government and move forward that way.
So are you familiar with National Parks Association?
Oh, yeah.
See,
Part of why we put this together, originally we were looking at a Future Leaders program. This was talking to Bob McCoon about 4 years ago. The trouble is like, the more we thought about it, the more we tried to put it together, we really didn't quite have an understanding of how we were going to quite go about it. And so what we then thought was, this sort of came from Doug's idea, put together a forum and try and get people from different areas interested. Now, GameCon's a peak body hunting organisation that's run by clubs, but we don't just have to be hunting clubs. Any clubs that have, and this is not trying to sort of do a membership drive here or anything, but what I'm saying is, firstly, it's not just hunting clubs that can join us for the purposes. Any clubs welcome, sort of basically take on our constitution where we're trying to go to get on board and start sharing with us. Like I said, it's not a membership drive, but we would welcome other clubs coming along, sit in. I mean, we quite often invite people from different areas to come and sit in and listen to us all talk. And what's really interesting about the way we work is you get a lot of people with a hell of a lot of experience, primarily in hunting, some fishing. Don's there every time. So we hear Don explain quite a lot. But there's other people from other clubs too that have been around for 30, 40 years in the hunting and various other things. And the meetings generally go for 2.5 hours, roughly, and we talk about a hell of a lot of things that are political, that are going on, where we're going, what's happening, all this type of stuff. And we would certainly welcome other organisations from other areas. If you just want to come along, sit in and talk. I mean, Tony, I dragged him along and made sure he came along and sat in. Sort of another reason why we're sort of here where we are. We welcome other organisations coming in. We invite Robert quite often, at least once a year. Andrew Moriarty that was here, we ask him to come up once every year to try and see what's happening in the background of the DPI. Same with Pest Management Committee people. We try to get people coming from all sides just to sort of fill our information in, and we'd certainly welcome people from the fishing side because, well, I fish. I got my licence. Don't know why I pay for a licence for that or for hunting, but we won't go there. People like Clark. I met Clark a couple of years ago up at the Brisbane conservation thing, and Doug knows of Clark, and a lot of us know of Clark. That's why we have to have Clark here for starters, just because of who he is. But you know what I mean? It's like the more sort of organisations that are sort of interested in trying to form this coalition and get things going, the more we invite people to come along. Give Doug a call, give me a call. Both our numbers are pretty much on the website now. We'd be interested in hearing different ideas and different thoughts. We have the capacity not only to try and drive for funds and stuff, but also to sort of form subcommittees to go off on certain tasks and things like that. And it's, I think about 14 clubs at the moment, and we can use those clubs to sort of try and get action happening and things happening. I mean, over the years, the Game Council came straight out of GameCon. So that's the type of things that have happened in the past.
I guess I'm looking at a very more basic level, micro level. Like Wal and I spoke earlier about the unification and like that. And I guess the thing that's always in the mind is that NRA, like not because that's specifically hunting and guns, but have a more generalised umbrella body. But we need that umbrella body to unify everybody. Then you've got to get everybody's got to wake up to themselves and look at that unification and how that's going to work. All these livery towers, like the Pistols and the SSAA and someone else, of doing their own little thing is not going to. In Australia, it's not going to do the job. They've got to get together. The next thing that's going, and the guy over here who spoke about the Greens, mate, they got a main line into media. Like, they put their hand up and say something stupid, and the media picks it up. Well, that's the problem we got, that we haven't got the access to that. And I don't know how, I don't know whether we pay $100,000.
Yeah, we need our own ABC.
Yeah, well, that's okay, we'll make one. But that's the thing, is the sort of like mainstream Greens and all those conservationists, supposedly people, have got a main line into the media. And anything they put up gets taken, where you put up a hunting story or even a conservation story related to hunting, and you're pushing the proverbial uphill to get any column space in the media. I don't know how you do it, but that's one of the micro things we need to do.
Just an interjection here. Somebody said something about kids going fishing. David Muscat's been taking kids fishing for what, 8 years now? Sport, the school sport, scheduled Tuesday afternoon sport. I used to go with him when he needed extra help. One day a kid caught a 42 centimeter flathead off Canada Bay, is it? Or where, it was over by the Rhodes Shopping Center just across the road. But, you know, it's like the school had a little mini bus. We get back late, but, you know, it's possible. And it's like just encouraging people to do it, having the nerve to do it. And kids love it. We used to get kids with no parents.
We get arseholes of kids, to be honest. We show up to some locations like under the Gladesville Bridge and they'd be putrid, and I'd say, I'm throwing a line in until we clean this spot up, and they were all onto it. So, yeah, it's a good angle.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh, look, I was just going to say, reiterating what David was talking about, you know, as the chair of Federation of Hunting Clubs, we're a member of GameCon, we're a peak body in our own right. So, you know, in all honesty, we, you know, could rightly, you know, not be part of GameCon, but we obviously see a value in it. You know, moving forward into that sort of umbrella organisation, I think if we want to nullify their egos, then we need to be really careful about how we structure that organisation, and you know, and in terms of leadership, voting, and all that sort of stuff, you know, because you know, the thing that drives people's egos is that they want to be the king of their own little castle, and you know, this other umbrella organisation, if we create it, it needs to be one that doesn't necessarily have a king, one that, you know, we rule as, you know, knights of the round table, so to speak. Yeah, there is this unintended consequence too, isn't it? When you put a submission in under an organisation with 200,000 people, that counts as one submission. Mm. But there's no reason why you can't then push that submission out amongst your own clubs. We did it with the Natural Resource Commission. You know, both ourselves, I think GameCon, ADA, we all sort of colluded, so to speak, and shared ideas about, you know, those issues, and we put in mirror submissions. Well, we did it with the pest management strategies as well. So, yeah, you have that one big banner which carries the weight of all of us, and then you also have all the little clubs that you disseminate, you know, those submissions out to. And
somebody a minute ago said emulate our enemies, and that's one of the things they do. They have, you know, say South Coast Forest or whatever it was, and so they got 10 people, 8 people in that. Then the next white spot in the road, they got another half a dozen people there, and they got a website. And that's the other thing.
Gun control is 3 people on fax machines.
Yeah. So sometimes
look how much damage they do. Look how much damage they do if they're so small.
Okay, guys, what I think we've got to do is there's a lot of hunting clubs. Can everyone put their hand up who's in an individual hunting club here? There is a lot more hunting clubs than the people in the room. We've got to target every single one of them. There are some that think they're the king of the throne there. They won't even come here today, which, there's one I'm kind of in, and they didn't even send anyone here. So it was kind of, we just got to speak to every single club and get everyone on board to make a difference here.
Just one quick word. We have a large group of people and they've all come up with some brilliant ideas. Now, a lot of you have got skills that other clubs haven't got. And I must admit, I've heard some things today which I would love to have in the branch of ADA Sydney, learning things. We haven't got it. But if all of us individuals can pull together and just take what you think you can do and put it before Doug and GameCon, maybe we can pull this thing together a lot faster than waiting for individuals or to find somebody. If you think you've got a gift, step forward. My gift is not in paperwork or computers, but I can usually communicate and get things across to people as much as possible.